Hi everyone and happy February. My name is Sarah and I'm the staff liaison for the Global Troy Advisory Committee. For Black History Month, Global Troy will be posting 28 days of videos featuring Black icons. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my Black icons, Dr. Ibrahim X Kindy. Dr. Kindy is an author and a leading scholar on race and racial discrimination who studies individual attitudes and how they play a role in sustaining racism. He was featured in Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People of 2020, and his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, has opened my eyes to my implicit biases and has encouraged me to educate myself and grow as a person.
Hi, I'm Avita Burris, and I wanted to share my Black history icon, Mahalia Jackson. Born October 26, 1911, Mahalia became known as America's gospel singer. One of her great performances was in the classic Imitation of Life, singing Trouble of This World. She also was a great friend and performer for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and sat on the podium as he delivered the I Have a Dream speech. Look her up, Mahalia Jackson.
Hi, my name is Allison Liu and I'm a student representative on the Global Troy Advisory Committee. A personal hero to me is the iconic Madam C.J. Walker. She wasn't just a successful female entrepreneur, but a valued member of her community as well. She set out to fulfill a need that wasn't being met: products for natural hair. She used her influence to empower young women to become financially independent. Her ambition and resilience inspires me every single day.
Hi, this is Todd Makupa, State Representative for Troy and Clawson. I'm here to share with you a figure to celebrate in the State House, William Ferguson. He was the first Black man elected to be a state representative in the state of Michigan in 1892. This building that I'm standing in is the House Office Building, and it's named for the first woman of color, Cora Anderson, who was also the first woman elected to the State House. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm David Hamilton. I'm a member of Troy City Council. For Black History Month, I'm here today to recognize Elijah Mccoy. Mr. Mccoy was an engineer and inventor known for having 57 patents. He was the son of fugitive slaves, and he came to the United States and to Michigan after he was born, where he had his very long, successful career. As an engineer, he's brought me a lot of inspiration.
My favorite Black icon is Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm was the first Black woman elected to Congress in the United States, and also the first Black woman to run for President of the United States. Shirley was bold, brave, and outspoken. She even hired all women to work in her office, half of whom were African American. Shirley said she wanted to be remembered as a catalyst for change in America.
Hi, I'm Mayor Ethan Baker, and I'd like to speak about Jesse Owens for this Black History Month icon video. Jesse Owens was an amazing athlete. He specialized in sprints and the long jump and was recognized in his lifetime as perhaps the greatest and most famous athlete in track and field history. He set 3 world records and tied another, all in less than an hour, at the 1935 Big Ten track meet in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a feat that has never been equaled and has been called the greatest 45 minutes ever in sports. He achieved international fame at the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, Germany, by winning 4 gold medals. He was the most successful athlete at the Games, and as a Black man, was credited with single-handedly crushing Hitler's myth of Aryan supremacy, although he wasn't invited to the White House to shake hands with the president either. And while you'll probably never hear me quoting President Jimmy Carter again, he had this to say when Jesse Owens passed away. Quote, "Perhaps no athlete better symbolized the human struggle against tyranny, poverty, and racial bigotry." Jesse Owens is definitely a Black icon. Thank you very much for watching.
Hi, my name is Teresa Brooks, And my Black History Month icon is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born in 1822 into slavery. In 1849, Harriet Tubman had the courage and strength to escape slavery and travel to Philadelphia. Instead of basking in her newfound freedom, she chose to return to help her family also escape slavery and find freedom as well. Using a network known as the Underground Railroad, Tubman would go on to escort over 300 slaves to freedom in approximately 19 different trips. This earned her the nickname Moses. It is also known that she never lost a passenger. Harriet Tubman was a woman who was deeply religious and fiercely rejected the institution of slavery. During the American Civil War, she served as an armed scout and spy for the Union Army. In her later years, Tubman was an activist in the movement for women's suffrage. Harriet Tubman is a true American hero and is an icon of courage and freedom.
Hello, my name is Lakshmi Malalahalli. Today, I would like to highlight the life of Katherine Johnson. Her career at NASA was the story behind the movie Hidden Figures. Katherine Johnson was one of NASA's human computers, tasked to perform complex calculations that enabled humans to achieve spaceflight. Her calculations led astronauts into orbit in the 1960s. She plotted Alan Shepard's journey in 1961 to space and John Glenn's successful orbit in 1962.
A few weeks ago, we lost a treasured icon in American Black history, all-time great baseball player, Henry Aaron, my hero. Hank was so much more than a ball player. He was a pioneer with unsurpassed dignity and class. He is, and remains, the career home run champion and holds many other baseball records. I recall as a kid watching on TV as Hank hit his record-breaking home run, seeing him round the bases stoically and humbly, making his 715th home run trot. Mr. Aaron, you impacted me and generations of baseball fans and Americans to come. Rest in peace, Hamer.
Ellen Hoderick of the Troy City Council here. I am celebrating the groundbreaking actress and Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, Sicily Tyson. Her amazing career spans 6 decades and 100 acting roles. Roles she always selected intentionally to use her platform as an actress with dignity and purpose. I will never forget watching her in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, a huge influence on me as a young girl. Sicily Tyson recently passed away at the age of 96 years, but her work will long be with us. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cornelius Godfrey, and I want to talk to you about Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer was born on October 6, 1917 in Montgomery County, Mississippi. She was a staunch advocate for voting rights, women's rights, and organizing community members to fight for civil rights. In her work to obtain and defend rights for women and African Americans, she co-founded the Freedom Democratic Party and used that platform to speak up for the voiceless at the 1964 Democratic National Convention. Fannie Lou Hamer is best known for her persistence and resilience in the face of strong and violent opposition. She often used quotes from spirituals and hymns to inspire Black Americans to pursue their rights as citizens, despite the long-standing obstacles in their way. In an expression of her frustration with systemic racism and governmental oppression, she could be heard exclaiming, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." In addition to her achievements in the world of civil rights, Mrs. Hamer also worked to ensure economic and financial stability for impoverished Blacks suffering the impact of racist and discriminatory policies. Before her early passing from breast cancer complications in 1977, Fannie Lou Hamer sought public office in the U.S. Senate in 1964 and the Mississippi Senate in 1971. In honor of her unwavering service, Mrs. Hamer was posthumously inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993. Fannie Lou Hamer, you are truly an American hero.
name is Arjun Dolakapalli, a student liaison for the Global Troy Advisory Committee. Today, I would like to highlight Lebron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He has created the Lebron James Family Foundation, which raises and donates money to several charitable organizations, including those like the Boys and Girls Club of America. Along with this, he has also founded the I Promise program, which created a community center and a school in his hometown of Akron, Ohio.
Hi, I'm Ann Erickson Galt, and I want to talk to you about D. Augustus Striker. Mr. Striker was the first African-American lawyer to argue before the Michigan Supreme Court, and he convinced the court that the separate but equal doctrine was unconstitutional in 1890, several decades before the U.S. Supreme Court issued its decision in Brown v. Board of Education. Mr. Striker was also the first African-American judge in the state of Michigan. So I hope you'll join me in celebrating the life of D. Augustus Striker, this Black History.
Hi, my name is Michelle Haight, and my icon is Vivian Thomas. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had multiple open heart surgeries, my first when I was 1 month old. Vivian Thomas developed and discovered a life-saving infant cardiac procedure in the 1940s. With only a high school education, Thomas rose above poverty and racism to become a pioneer among pediatric cardiac surgeons. I thank Mr. Thomas for his brilliance and his innovation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Hitesh Patel, Recording Secretary, Troy Democratic Club. As we know, this month we are celebrating as a Black History Month. And today I am going to talk about my favorite black icon, who is Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin is known as Queen of Soul, but she used her song for power towards justice and equality. For example, her song Respect inspired so many people towards justice and equality. Thanks.
My name is Robert Cornwall. I am the pastor at Central Woodward Christian Church here in Troy and a chaplain for the Troy Police Department. I'd like to speak to a particular Black icon whom I respect, and that would be the Reverend Richard Allen. Richard Allen was the founder of the African Methodist Episcopal Church here in America in 1816. Richard Allen was born into slavery in 1760, and while still enslaved in Delaware, he taught himself to read and write, and by age 17 began to preach. After purchasing his freedom in 1780, he began to preach more freely, and by 1786 was preaching at a Methodist Episcopal Church here in Philadelphia. He would later leave the Methodist Episcopal Church and found the African Methodist Episcopal Church of Philadelphia in 1794. And then in 1816, he gathered 5 other African American congregations, and together they formed what has become the African Methodist Episcopal Church in America. The AME is the oldest Black denomination in the United States. As a white pastor, I have to admit it's unsettling to have to acknowledge that African Americans had to form their own denominations in order to worship freely without oppression and to support those who are enslaved, but that is the truth. And Richard Allen was one of the earliest to do so. The AME continues today and is a large, important Christian denomination. In its origins, Richard Allen, as its bishop and as a pastor, pursued literacy for African Americans. He provided dignity for those who were enslaved. He gave a sense of purpose and value for them. And so we wish to, and I wish to, honor him for his contribution to our lives.
Hello, my name is Justine Galbraith, and I am a teacher in the Troy School District. Today, I'd like to tell you about Representative John Lewis, who dedicated his life to the cause of civil rights and proved that activism works. John Lewis was one of the big six leaders of the American civil rights movement. He was a freedom rider. He was the youngest to speak at the 1963 March on Washington, and he led the demonstration that became known as Bloody Sunday. Lewis and others were beaten by state troopers after they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge on Bloody Sunday. Lewis suffered a fractured skull, and images of the violent attacks on protesters that day sped up the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. John Lewis continued to fight for people's rights as a U.S. congressman. He was elected to Congress in 1986, and he served at Georgia's 5th District until his death in 2020, overseeing the renewal of the Voting Rights Act several times during that time. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011 by President Barack Obama. He was diagnosed in 2019 with cancer, but before he died, he visited Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington. He passed the torch to today's young people, writing to Black Lives Matter activists that, quote, ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. To today's young activists, he added that now it's your turn to let freedom ring. Rest in power, John Lewis.
It was difficult to choose just one iconic figure to speak about for Black History Month. My name is Lisa Bika Grodsky, and I'm a member of the Global Troy Advisory Committee. I've been a music fan all of my life, so naturally I want to choose somebody in the music world. I grew up listening to Motown on the turntable, and one of my first jobs was with Harmony House Records and Tapes, who was headquartered right here in the city of Troy, Michigan. You can take me away from music, but you can't take music from me. So I decided to talk about Donald Walbridge Shirley, a composer who was classically trained on piano and a revered jazz musician in the Don Shirley Trio. His first record of jazz standards was released in 1955. Despite his ability to perform different genres of music through a classical style prism, in the 1960s, Don Shirley was denied many opportunities to perform classical music because of the color of his skin. Renewed interest in Don Shirley's music was fueled by the 2018 movie release, The Green Book, based on a real-life road trip in 1962 in which Don Shirley toured the Midwest and the Deep South for 8 weeks. He and his driver depended on The Green Book, which was a directory for people of color that was annually published from 1936 to 1966 during the Jim Crow era to find safe restaurants, service stations, and lodging for Black and African Americans to utilize. Don Shirley performed with the Detroit Symphony in 1968, and he paved the way for numerous other Black artists to tour the United States and bring their music to their fans. Don Shirley was 86 years of age when he passed away in 2013.
My name is Rebecca Chamberlain-Krianga, a member of Troy City Council. For Black History Month, the person I want to lift up is someone I was honored to meet in college, and that is Marion Wright Edelman. Edelman is best known for being the founder and leader of the Children's Defense Fund, an organization that advocates for children's rights and fights against racial inequity. Edelman was also a long-standing leader of the civil rights movement and was an inspiration to leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. And she's been an inspiration to me, the way she's devoted her life to the social sector and to advancing social good. She's a role model for all of us.
Hi, I'm Sunil Sekri. My Black History Month icon is American painter Jacob Lawrence. His style of art and depiction of social challenges are exemplary to me. Jacob is known for combining social realism, modern abstraction, and bold colors in his paintings to express plight of African Americans. His famous work include This is Harlem and Migration Cities. Thank you.
My favorite Black icons are President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Barack and Michelle Obama embody Black excellence. Not only are they Black icons separately, but they are even stronger together. Their values, paired with their innate sense of optimism, compelled them both to devote their lives to giving every child, regardless of his or her background, the same chance America gave them. The Obama years were ones in which more people not only began to see themselves in the changing face of America, but to see America the way they always have, as the only place on earth where so many of our stories could be possible. President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are an example of strength, hope, perseverance, and so much more. Their impact on America and the world as not only leaders, but Black leaders will be felt by our children and their children. It is because of people like them, my children can say they can one day be anything they want, including President of the United States.
Hi, my name is Amy Dent and I'm a teacher in the Troy School District. And today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite Black History Month icons, James Baldwin. James Baldwin was an American novelist, playwright, poet, and activist. He was one of the most important, vocal, and influential advocates for equality during the Civil Rights Movement. There have been 3 movies based on his novels, and they are Go Tell It on the Mountain, If Beale Street Could Talk, and I Am Not Your Negro. One of my favorite quotes from James is, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced."
Is David Recker, and I'm the proud principal of Hamilton Elementary School in the Troy School District. Today, in honor of Black History Month, I'm here to celebrate the work and the life of Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison was born in Lorain, Ohio on February 18th, 1931. And despite humble beginnings, Toni would eventually go on to earn a bachelor's degree in English from Howard University, as well as a master's degree in English from Cornell University. Throughout her life, Toni worked as an editor, an author, and a professor at prestigious universities such as Howard University and Princeton University. What's most important to me about the work of Toni Morrison is that it asked us readers to consider how the past might inform the present, whether that be challenging beauty standards in the bluest eye that we'd long accepted due to race and culture, or whether it asked us to consider the weight of racism in Song of Solomon. Due to the collection of Toni's outstanding work, she became the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1993, and she continues to give all Americans a glimpse into an identity they might not have lived. While Toni sadly passed away in 2019, her work will surely continue on to inspire future generations.
Hello, my name is Carrie Birmingham, and I'm the Director of Communications for the Troy School District. I chose Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune as the Black icon I wanted to spotlight because of her advocacy for education. She was a teacher. She was one of the first female college presidents in the nation. She was a civil rights leader, and she was a champion for racial and gender equity. But education was only one of Dr. Bethune's passions. She became a trusted advisor to 5 different U.S. presidents. She was a founder of several influential organizations, and she was one of the only women of color at the founding conference of the United Nations. Dr. Bethune was ahead of her time in so many ways, and she refused to believe that the status quo was the best that we could do. Perhaps her own words in her last will and testament sum up the final lesson she taught us all. "I leave you love," she wrote. "I leave you hope. I leave you the challenge of developing confidence in one another. I leave you a thirst for education. I leave you respect for the uses of power. I leave you faith. I leave you racial dignity. I leave you a desire to live harmoniously with your fellow men. I leave you, finally, a responsibility to our young people. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, a Black icon to whom we all owe a debt of gratitude.
Hello, my name is Tara Thompson-Cusack, and I am the President and CEO of the Troy Chamber of Commerce. When I was asked to speak on a Black icon, I thought about so many Black heroes in history. But today I'd like to talk about a current Black icon whose work is impacting the future of so many young artists. I'd like to talk about my friend and previous colleague, Delashae Strauder. Dela is the artistic and executive director of the internationally acclaimed creative youth development nonprofit, Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, where she has devoted her skills and her leadership to engaging, transforming, and inspiring a new generation of leaders and artists. Dela started off at Mosaic as a young artist herself, and in 2003 she started her professional journey working at Mosaic as an assistant music director, where she shared her musical talents through education. She rose up the ranks to artistic director and is now serving as the executive and artistic director. Delashae has dedicated her life to inspiring others through youth development. She has helped thousands of children, teens, and young artists find their voice through music and theater. Mosaic has a slogan that we always said, "Only the best and nothing less." And Dela was just that. And that is why it is my honor to speak of my friend and Black icon, Delashae Strauder.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Cross. I'm the principal at Baker Middle School, and I would like to highlight the scientific and iconic work of Percy, Lavon, Julian in celebration of Black History Month. Percy Lavon Julian is arguably one of the most important chemists in America at the turn of the 20th century. Although his grandfather was born a slave, Percy Julian's parents were graduates of the historical Black college, Alabama State University. Percy himself went on to do his undergraduate work at DePaul University and earned a PhD in chemistry from Harvard. He also taught at Howard University. Throughout his career, he spent his lifetime focusing on the development of the soybean. And I know what you're thinking, the soybean. This does not sound like groundbreaking science, but his contributions to the industrial and medical application of the soybean were incredible. He was contracted by the U.S. Navy for the development of a soy-based firefighting foam. He worked in the private sector for a company called Glidden, creating soy-based glue for plywood and latex paints for the company. Percy eventually left Glidden and founded his own company, Julian Laboratories Incorporated. During this time, he advanced his work with the soy protein, making it possible to mass produce cortisone at a reasonable cost. This was a major breakthrough for individuals suffering from rheumatoid arthritis. At the time, rheumatologists didn't have a cost-effective therapeutic for the disease. That is, until Percy came along, making cortisone shots available at a reasonable cost. Throughout his career, Percy received over 130 chemical patents and was the first African-American chemist to become a member of the National Academy of Sciences.
The Black icon I want to talk about today is Henrietta Lacks. Her cells are behind some of the biggest medical innovations made in the past century. In 1920, she was born in Roanoke, Virginia. However, she died an early death in 1951 when she was only 30 due to cervical cancer. However, unknown to Henrietta at that time and also unknown to her family more than 20 years afterwards, when she was being treated at Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is one of the only hospitals treating Black patients at that time, the doctor who treated her took a sample of her cancer cells without her consent and then discovered that they were immortal. So they stayed alive and grew indefinitely. Now, this was a medical miracle. So biotechnology companies started selling her cells for $250 a vial. So her cells are actually behind the polio vaccine, which saved millions and millions of lives. They're also used in different types of research, such as gene cloning and vitro fertilization, and also cancer research. So even though, a bunch of companies were profiting off her cells, and also her cells have saved millions and millions of lives, Henrietta's family struggled in poverty after she passed away. She had a brother in jail, her daughter was in a psychiatric asylum, and many of her relatives just suffered from chronic illnesses for their entire life because they couldn't afford insurance. So when you look at this, I think it's important to remember Henrietta's story during Black History Months because first, we're showing gratitude to a Black woman who saved millions and millions of lives, but at the same time, it allows us to be aware and reckon with a lot of the racial disparities and also bioethical violations in our healthcare system. Moving forward, we should continue to show gratitude, but also at the same time, look into our own healthcare system right now and see if there are places that we need to make a change.